Your Denver Broncos just keep making brilliant moves. They didn't lose out on Cooper Kupp. They passed on him intentionally. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why they did that, why it's great news for the Denver Broncos, that and so much more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan riding insanely high after NFL free agency, and it helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe, let me know on the channel, like, how hyped are you about this NFL free agency? What grade would you give the Broncos? CBS went out and gave grades. They only gave us a B for NFL free agency, but yet we know they don't actually cover any of the moves. I was even talking to one of my friends who's a Detroit Lions fan today who didn't even know we got Evan Engram, and he's like, oh, that changes everything. And so I give this Broncos free agency class an absolute A+, and I won't listen to anyone else who says anything under that. Like, it was a phenomenal free agency period, and we are eating greedy when we talk about, like, oh, wouldn't it have been cool if we got a punter or if we got Cooper Kupp? I think the Broncos definitely passed on Cooper Kupp. Let's dive in here. So looking at this here, Cooper Kupp is a Washington boy. He is returning to Washington, and he's going to play for the Seattle Seahawks. When I think of NFC teams I despise the most, the Seahawks are absolutely at the top. They used to be our AFC West rivals, and they beat us in the Super Bowl, and then again, they screwed us on the Russell Wilson deal. So I would love if they just tank out here, and I think they made a massive, massive gamble here. They signed Cooper Kupp to a at least $15 million per year deal to go to the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, they traded in DK Metcalf for Cooper Kupp. I do not think that was a smart move. That's a ton of money to be giving a guy who's got a ton of injury concerns. And truly, that's more money than we gave to Courtland Sutton last year. And there was a lot of talk that if we gave Cooper Kupp that type of money, that changes what we would do with Courtland. And I would take Courtland Sutton any day of the week over Cooper Kupp, and so I'm glad in that way that we did not get him, but still, you're seeing tons of people out there reporting that the Broncos were in the mix. I think Sean Payton knew exactly what Cooper Kupp had left in the tank and had a money line in his head and said, this is what I'm willing to pay, and I won't go a penny over that. He is really, really good friends with Sean McVay. They traveled this summer to Cabo, and we're in a VRBO with Bo Nix and Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. You know, Sean Payton picked his brain about what Cooper Kupp has left in the tank, and the fact that Cooper Kupp said he wanted to come to Denver and he isn't shows that the Broncos had a number and they were not willing to go over that, and I think that is a brilliant move, and that's a winning move, that when you are reaching time and time again, that's how you get yourself in trouble. We've been down that road where you're like, well, Russell Wilson might be able to do this. Let's just give him the max deal. And that hurt us for a couple of seasons. So I think it's a brilliant pass on behalf of the Broncos. And it seems like while there are some people who are discouraged, they thought this would be the coolest way to end NFL free agency. At the end of the day, I think we all are feeling good that we're not tied into an aging receiver at $15 million a year who really relied on athleticism to get open and isn't, he's been taking massive shots like his entire career. You just see him get lit up and you're like, how does he even make it through the season? Exactly what happened to Ladd McConkey there at the end for the Chargers, and you saw what it did to them even with a rookie. You cannot sustain those type of hits, that Wes Welker type of, you were just constantly getting smoked. You aren't just beating dudes over the top and walking into the end zone like a Tyreek Hill. You are relying on catches over the middle and getting hit like a tight end, but you're not built like a tight end. You're built like a Ben on Sports Talk Denver. He's not that much bigger than me. I bet if I saw Cooper Kupp at a Turkey Bowl, I'd juke him out. Let me know. You think that would happen? Probably. And here, Zach Stevens came out and said that exactly what I'm just saying here, that the Broncos knew what they had as their value for Cooper Kupp and weren't going to pay any more. You just think of going into a car dealership and saying, this is what I'm going to pay for this car. I'm not going to pay any more, no matter how much that used car salesman tries to sweet talk me into it. That's a good financial move. The Broncos are doing that phenomenal there. And even just seeing Troy Wright come out and be like, Broncos were never even considering going over 15 mil. Just looking here that when Courtland Sutton re-signed his deal, that was a $13.5 million per year deal, and Courtland Sutton is a much better wide receiver and a true wide receiver one at this point in his career and hasn't had the drop-off. Other pieces of good news that we get as NFL free agency is closing out here. We see that Dre Greenlaw, just an absolute steal. One of the reasons I give the Broncos an A for this draft is the fact that for this free agency period is so many people wanted to come to Denver. Deebo Samuel said he wanted to come to Denver. Dre Greenlaw picked the Broncos even though his own team was trying to keep him. Cooper Kupp told Adam Schefter he wants to come to Denver. We see Evan Engram pick the Broncos over the Chargers, who had the same offer on the table. Huffanga had multiple teams bidding for him as well, including the Miami Dolphins. He chose Denver, and it's super cool here to see that Dre Greenlaw, even as a kid, was rocking the orange and blue, and this is his new Instagram profile picture. So even more of a reason to be a hyped fan of Dre Greenlaw and what we have, and just throws back some awesome memories of seeing this amazing picture here of a Serbian Nikola Jokic as a kid rocking your Denver Broncos with like the Mutombo jersey. Brings me back for sure to that era. So very, very exciting there. Other fantastic news here that the Broncos free agent signings were not only diamonds in the rough when it came to talent, they also were incredibly high character guys. And Sean Payton did his research, and we are in good shape, and none of these dudes coming in are going to get popped and fail a drug test. And it's incredible to me to see the Bills doing these victory laps about how great their free agency is, and already 2 of their free agents are going to miss at least 6 games for violating the performance-enhancing drug policy. So Broncos got great talent and guys who aren't just doping up on HGH. Phenomenal news there. Other great news, I think, a sneaky thing here is that we never have to talk about the word Joker again until the season starts. Like, I feel like had we not got Evan Engram in this NFL free agency, all we'd be talking about is who's Sean Payton's Joker in the NFL draft. And I'm over the Joker word. And Evan Engram came out himself and proved to you that he is that Joker. There's been some discrepancy on Twitter, like, well, Evan Engram isn't truly a Joker. He's just a really good tight end. Evan Engram tells you what he thinks about that by tweeting out this gift here. You want to see how I got these scars? And Evan Engram is our Joker, and that we can stop saying it now. Sean Payton can go any way he wants in the draft now because we have that position taken care of. Evan Engram dropping it hard, saying, hey, I'm going to be that Joker. Other interesting things here is like, now what do the Broncos do? Because it seems like the NFL wide receiver free agents have been kind of holding out to see what Cooper Kupp signed for, and now the chips are really going to fall over as he signed now with Seattle, and so you're going to see all these other guys go off the board, and it's interesting to me to see some names on here who folks are still pretty interested in. Amari Cooper is a free agent, Stephon Diggs is a free agent, and Keenan Allen is a free agent as well, and I think all of those guys are possible fits for this team, but truly Sean Payton went on his lie detector test, which is being on the Kay Adams show. He will tell her anything because she's like the best. And he said, I feel very, very good about this young core of wide receivers that we have. We already have a veteran wide receiver who's a leader in Courtland Sutton. We have Troy Franklin, who finally came on, finally connected with Bo Nix when it mattered the most in that final game against the Buffalo Bills. We know Marvin Mims, the more we get him the ball, the more explosive things he does. The highlight of the year for me was that 2-touchdown Marvin Mims game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think, dude, let all those guys pass. Like, unless you could pick one of those guys up for a vet minimum, I feel phenomenal about our wide receiver class here. Maybe take a flyer on a wide receiver in the draft, but I feel great about the talent that we have. And that's not even mentioning one-a-day Devon Vele, who I think is the replacement for Courtland Sutton in 2 or 3 years, because he is a phenomenal player and at one point in time was Bo Nix's favorite target, and we got Evan Engram, so there's not going to be as many balls going to wide receivers as there were last year, and hopefully we come out of the season with a running back as well, which means Bo Nix doesn't have to throw the ball 50 times a game. It is just wild when you think about the fact that we were essentially tied with the Buffalo Bills in a playoff game at halftime with massive holes at inside linebacker and injuries at inside linebacker, without a great safety other than Brandon Jones, without a tight end, and without Audric Estime didn't even suit up our last game. We didn't have a running game, and yet we were almost tied with the Buffalo Bills at half. We drastically overshot, or like we're over our skis, as a Bronco or a Colorado analogy there. I'm thrilled with what we have going forward, and so it's odd to me to see Colin Cowherd, who's usually pretty pro Sean Payton and pro Bo Nix, come out and give his AFC West predictions. Not only does he predict the Broncos don't make the playoffs this year, he predicts that we finish 3rd in the division. And that's just wild to me, because we only progressed, and we're only going to have a better quarterback, and those wide receivers are going to be better in year 2 than they were in year 1. So Colin Cowherd, for the first time ever, you're canceled. Get out of my feed, man. So let me know in the comments, like, is that very, very disrespectful for you? Last, but certainly not least, I had one of the highlights of my time since I started YouTube about 1.5 years ago. I've listened to more Darren McKee, D-Mac on 104.3 and now on Altitude. And then, he has his own podcast, Kill You With Truth. And Mike Carminelli, I always butcher his last name, is doing this amazing show once a week. You have got to go subscribe to his channel, watch this video. It's essentially Denver Broncos PTI, and he pairs different Broncos content creators and podcasters and radio dudes and has them do Broncos trivia. I'm not going to tell you how it ended, but my favorite broadcaster ever, like more than Bill Simmons, more than any of that, D-Mac, and I kind of held my own. Let me know. Go watch it. Let me know in the comments how I did. And Broncos Country, we're back. Great free agency, and we got a ton to Bo-LIEVE in. Needed to make that last shot.